Hello and welcome to Onesies, a podcast of onesies and wonders and blunders. My name's Andrew.
My name is Emily.
And we are still discussing 1992's ABC primetime dramedy, Going to Extremes. We are 8 or 9 episodes in. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
What
This
else are you
episode-
watching, Andrew?
Oh,
God.
No Roy D this episode.
No.
But Carl Lumley shows up for the first scene. Okay.
So we are, let's just get this straight. We are on episode 9, The Eye of the Needle. I'm going to say it in a way that is not bad. I mean, I watched it a couple days ago. I didn't really take any notes, but I can tell you what the basic. I didn't take it. I've given up on the notes for this. I was just horrible. I'm just Erica Alexander, probably the best actor on the show. Her character is just getting worse and worse. And it's like I have nothing left to give. I have nothing left. They've taken it all away because she's increasingly racist. And it's just not fun. It's not fun. There's nothing even fun. Give me...
What about the Martin Scorsese references, Emily? They talk about what Martin Scorsese thinks of the latest episode of the latest Hulk TV movie. There's a 15-minute segment where they talk about what he thinks of Marvel TV movie pilots.
No,
okay.
So,
that would be better than what they actually do. Okay. So... there's no cold open, which is really cool. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Our first scene is then Alex and Charlie getting their papers back from Carl Lumley and making faces about their grades. Carl Lumley explains he's not grading on a curve because you don't grade on a curve in medical school because then somebody dies or something like that.
And then they all complain. Well, they all being Alex, I think.
And Charlie, because no one else has any lines because they're not paying those people.
Yeah.
Those people are getting $15 at best.
Yeah.
So Charlie complains about something and his grade, and we get this whole thing about how Charlie killed some guy because he wasn't thinking about pre-existing conditions. Is that important? No. However, what will be important is Carl Lumley then says, I'm looking for volunteers to go give shots in this village that's 300 miles away. How big is this
island?
Okay, so Alex goes, what are we, the Red Cross? And Carl Lumley's like, well, it's optional. And they're like, well, how do you mean optional? And he's like, optional as in you have a choice. You have a choice to be here. I have a choice to be here teaching you and something else.
Yeah.
And so then they go home and Alex compares this to being drafted into Vietnam.
Oh, boy. He is very melodramatic.
Thousands of innocents sent off to die. And I'm like, I'm sorry, thousands of innocents sent off to kill poor innocents. I mean, it's 1992, y'all. Like,
his dad was a Vietnam vet, though. You know, every generation kind of
was he,
or maybe
dad seems like a draft dodger.
Maybe he was a draft dodger.
Okay,
and that's why he's sympathethetic to the plight of people.
Now, at this point, Charlie is trying to de-escalate it. Kathleen and Cheryl are arguing about they're asking about the mosquito repellent. Kathleen's like, I don't know where it is, but you're going to need some. Alex is telling Charlie this isn't a field trip. There's going to be sick, poor Black people. Harvard med students don't have to volunteer to help people.
Get into fucking Harvard then, brother. Get into fucking Harvard. Stop bitching. You've been in school.
I don't want to help people. I don't want to help people. I don't want to help people. I didn't become a doctor to help people.
You've been in school for how many months? And you still can't get over the fact that you didn't get into Harvard? You didn't get into Harvard. You didn't get into, like, I can't even name, like, a lower medical school. Like you need to accept your fate here, friend.
Okay, and here's where the next subplot starts, which Emily is going to tell us about. It's going to be about Cheryl accusing the housekeeper of being a thief.
So Cheryl walks in and she asks about the funky smell of her dress that she's wearing. Her housekeeper, or maybe Kathleen, says that, oh, that's mildew. And there's this back and forth about how it was, I don't want to say dried improperly, but it was hung out to dry and then it rained and then it didn't dry all the way. So now there's mildew growing in it. Gross. Cheryl tries to give Kathleen the dress, and then Kathleen's like, I don't want your fucking mildewy dress. And then she's like, okay. And then argues that the housekeeper should clean the dress again and dry it up and hang it up correctly.
But she's not going to do that. We also established in the scene the housekeeper is making them food.
Yes. Their kitchen is very clean.
Yes. So then there's Alex is whining that Kathleen and Cheryl don't care that he and Charlie are going into the wilderness.
Why aren't Kathleen and
why
Cheryl...
isn't anybody else going?
Why isn't anybody else going?
Wait, you're spoiling. But also I was like, old boy went out into the wilderness when he had to pick that flower for Fuck Doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, we then cut to, oh God, so we have 3 plots this episode, basically.
Yeah.
We then cut to the clinic where Colin, and we're going to go pretty quickly through this one.
Yeah.
Because
I don't have any notes, and it's really fucked up.
Yeah, so this couple shows up with their newborn baby. He delivered the baby, and they said we named him Colin. And Colin's like, oh, that's so nice. My mom liked that name. We're like, we named him after you. He's like, wow, after me? He's like, yeah, because you gave him life, man. And he's like,
cool.
No, man, you gave him life. And I'm like, didn't the mom give him life?
Yeah.
It's like these 2 bros. But then he's like, can you be the godfather? And he's like, I never thought I would be a godfather until my sister had kids. But sure. And then he's like, you can be a doctor someday, little baby. We then cut to the bus where Charlie and Alex are the only volunteers. Charlie's car sick, and it'll be 30 Jantique dollars if Charlie pukes.
Yeah.
I think the driver's like, hey man, aren't you a fucking doctor? Can't you help your friend? And Alex says he's just a med student. He's not as experienced as the driver in helping people with motion sickness.
Yeah.
He also refers to Carl Lumley as a way too self-actualized professor.
Yeah. Was that
I don't know.
That seemed like he was calling him uppity.
Yeah.
That seemed
like he was calling him uppity.
That seemed like he was calling him uppity. Okay.
Yep.
That was one note that was in my head.
This episode is about how Alex can be the big racist too. Charlie doesn't have to be the big racist. But what we will notice in Alex's arc is he learns to not be a piece of shit, or at least less of a piece of shit, midway through the episode, where Charlie only ever learned at the end of the episode.
Right.
So somebody's agent was better than somebody else's. Okay, we cut to the house. Kathleen is sitting around whining about having to be in charge of paying bills. Cheryl's like, well, did you take my dress? And Kathleen's like, no, it's not my color, which I also thought was a little weird.
Yeah.
And then Cheryl's like, where is it? And then
Cheryl starts to formulate a story about how it must have been the housekeeper.
Yep.
Nobody else would come in here and just take my dress. It has to be her. She has to be stealing. And Kathleen is like, whoa, there must be another explanation.
Now, I'm not going to accuse a black lady of stealing. If you want to, that's a little different, but not me.
There must be another explanation, but Cheryl talks Kathleen into... Well, no, Cheryl doesn't. Cheryl talks Kathleen into testing the housekeeper, which is the most mature way she could have handled this, by putting money out on the counter and seeing if she stole it.
Yes. Now, my wonderful notes for this. You can't do that. That's entrapment. Right after my note that says entrapping her with money.
Yeah.
And Kathleen's like, remember Marion Barry?
Oh.
Cheryl goes, yeah, he went to jail. To which my note is model minority. Okay. We then cut to the little town where there's nobody in town.
Yeah.
And they meet the chief. And the chief is this young black kid.
In a fancy car.
And then he starts talking to him about whether or not they like Marty Scorsese movies.
Ugh. God.
The Raging Bull. Do you like The Raging Bull?
And the guy and the chief is like rattling off quotes from movies I've never seen and never will see.
Taxi Driver. And then he's like,
ugh.
why? Yeah, the people don't want these pills, man.
It's a vaccine. It's a shot for for tetanus. It's a tetanus shot.
So they then he's like, don't worry about it. Let's go have some pasta. So they go have pasta. And we cut to a commercial, and then we come back home where the money's gone. Colin's hanging out, I think.
Yeah, and for some reason Colin's there.
Colin's just been hanging out in the house every few
episodes. Maybe he and Kim still have something going on the side. Maybe.
Also no looks for Kim and Cheryl this episode.
No.
Okay, so there's a dirty fork situation where they make Dahlia clean it again, and then we find out that Dahlia's name is
Cherish.
Just her professional name. Her real name's Cherish.
Yeah, sorry, spoiled.
And then she says, and they're like, that's a very pretty name. And they're like, that's all that poor people can give their children is pretty names. So then Kim talks about how his name is a leftover from the Boer War, which is a big flex for 1992, especially. This is a very again, this is not dissuading from the white breadness of Northern exposure. Okay.
No.
So then Colin is blathering on about how
he's flipping through a baby name book. That's why there's all this discussion about names. Okay. And it's like he's just because this family gave their kid his name and called him his godfather, he's like obsessed with names. It doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense.
I think I might have said that the money was gone. No, Cheryl has put the money out.
Cheryl has made a fucking show of it. Like, Kathleen, you are going to the fruit market. Please make sure. Yeah, please make sure to bring me some mangoes. Thank you. Here is $20.
Okay, we then cut back to the village where the chief has brought the fellas over to his house, and he's going to talk to them about movies.
Yep.
He talks about The Hustler. There might be some quotes. Then the chief says it as a mediocre sequel, which I thought was funny since it was directed by Marty Scorsese. They then talk about the Tom Cruise movies they like Born on the 4th of July, which is terrible.
And then Charlie's like, Cocktail.
I like Cocktail. And they're like, you nerd. You fucking you straight edge.
It's so sad because it's the only time Charlie like really feels like he says it because he's really feeling like, okay, this is something I can talk about, and it's Cocktail. Aw.
Yep.
Poor guy.
So then the chief talks about how Paul Newman's cool, talks about how he likes Clint Eastwood, but all Clint Eastwood thinks about is killing people. Which the boys think, Alex and Charlie think is pretty cool, though. Like, it's really cool how he just shoots poor black guys all the time. That's our hero fantasy.
And indigenous people. And
yeah. So then the chief's like, well, no, man, I think Sidney Poitier and Paul Newman are the cool ones. They think about what it means to be a man, all the love, passion, and glory. Then they spoil the end of the Defiant ones. And then Alex says, hey, man, can you get your people to get shots if I get you an autographed picture of Sidney Poitier?
Yeah.
He's like, hell yeah, I can. And then they're like, are we going to watch Terminator 2 or Pretty Woman? And Alex establishes he was not lying. He has an uncle or somebody who works at creative artists and can get Sidney Poitier's autograph. Okay. We then cut to the house where the money is gone.
Yes.
And the dress has not reappeared.
Yes.
And
so Cheryl is convinced, and Kathleen tells her, you have to talk to her.
Yes, you have to talk to her. And then, what am I supposed to talk to her about? She came with the house. Kathleen's like, Cheryl. And Cheryl's like, oh, there's probably a clause in the rental agreement. I'm like, isn't that called a lease? But
yeah.
Whatever. And then she's like, fine, I'll talk to her. And Kathleen's like, well, when are you going to do it? You got to do it soon. And black women versus each other. Cut to the chief reading Spy magazine and talking about the tetanus drive. He apparently told the townspeople that Whitney Houston was going to be there. I didn't hear it and I didn't go back.
Yeah, I didn't go back either.
So then we have Charlie and Alex standing in front of a crowd of people who don't want a shot because they don't understand why they need something when it's gonna. They need a shot when they're not sick.
Yeah, they don't understand why they would need a shot if they're not sick. Which again, it's really distressing to me that they're playing so stupid, like that they're having these people be so stupid.
And somebody has drawn an incredibly detailed blackboard explaining it, which I feel like doesn't come up, but also presumably took somebody the entire bus ride.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a blackboard on the bus. So whatever. But then Alex is like, look, I'm going to get a shot. Charlie's going to get a shot. You'll see it's okay to get a shot.
Yeah.
And so that works, though Charlie whines about it. And
never ends up getting the shot.
Yeah. Because
he gives Alex his shot, but never gets one himself. Stupid.
Okay. We then cut to the christening scene, which
there are people outside. They're singing songs. They is it the placenta?
Oh yeah, no, it's the umbilical cord.
It's the umbilical cord, and bury it under a coconut tree.
Yep.
It's got all the significance.
What is Colin? Colin has to say some lines.
I don't remember.
Godfather.
I don't remember. I just remember thinking, isn't Godfather like a religious thing? Like you're in charge of their religious upbringing? I don't know anything about it.
Well, we'll find out actually what they expect in a bit. But yes, so Colin says some things that are problematic under the direction of the local peoples.
Yeah.
And then there's just singing and joyfulness and Colin's burying the tree.
A cute little baby.
We then cut to the clinic, presumably the next day. Alex and Charlie went to this village.
Mm-hmm.
It took over 4 hours to get there. I think it would actually take much longer than that based on 300 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. They go to this village. Yes, that's 5 hours at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Much longer.
They weren't going 60 either.
No. They have since gotten back. And Alex is working a clinic shift for the first time in who knows how long.
Yeah.
And the guy who got the first shot shows up and says, I'm fucking sick, you asshole. I'm going to kill you with this machete. And Alex is like, don't kill me with this machete. And he's like, my arm's sore. I'm not going to be able to harvest my yams. Kofi's going to harvest my yams. My family's going to starve. Your family's going to fucking starve.
Yeah.
And Alex is like, Mah! And so then there's like wacky music. The dude walks off, and my note is, but how did he get there?
Yeah. How did he get there? And then just turn around and walk away so quickly. Like, right. It seems like if you're on a bus or in a car for 4 hours and you're working yourself up to kill somebody, you're not going to be like, okay, and then turn and walk away.
It's also, yeah. So we then cut to the house where Cheryl interrupts Delia mopping the kitchen floor.
Mm-hmm.
And Delia's like, why are you messing up my clean floor? And Cheryl's like, my things are important to me. And Delia's like, can you stop messing up my floor? And then Cheryl talks about how things belong to her and that you took our things, you took my money.
Yeah.
And if you need an advance because somebody's sick, all you have to do is ask.
This is Cheryl's has been pissed, and this is her trying to be diplomatic. Like, there must be something going wrong in your life. What can we do to help you? And it's like, bitch, you're accusing her of stealing from you. You're not asking, hey, did you take my dress? Hey, did you take the $20? You're not asking. You're saying you did this because you have financial hardship because you're poor. What a bitch.
So
Sorry,
then
bitch is not a good word to use.
Delia leaves. Kathleen comes out of the next room and is like, oh, hey, what's going on in here? Like, she hadn't been standing there listening.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, and she quit? And she didn't even finish the floor? It was great.
Yeah.
So then we cut to Alex in bed. Now he's sick and Charlie is taking care of him. There's some weird looped audio in here, I noticed too. Charlie or Alex complains about Charlie's clinical tone, which is something like what Alex had earlier. Charlie tells Alex just to call the police, but Alex is like, he doesn't actually say why he's not going to call the police. Instead, he's going to travel 300 miles back to town because he doesn't want to have to leave Jantique because then he'd fail physio.
Yeah.
And Charlie's like, me and Kim will be your bodyguards. I'm almost a green belt in judo. So then Alex shuffles out of the house in a blanket, whining about how he's cold and it's 100 degrees.
Right.
Or something. Okay. Later in the house, Kim's in the kitchen. Cheryl comes in. It's like, hey, what's 30J doing here? And Kim's like, that's your money. I'm paying you back.
Yeah.
Cheryl's like, what? He's like, you had some money in the fruit bowl. I took it. There's your change. And she's like, what do you mean you took my money? He's like, well, you weren't using it, so I borrowed it. And she's like, you can't borrow something without telling somebody. That's called stealing. You need to have consent, Kim. Oh, they do have a scene together here. Oh,
yeah.
Wow. I guess there's a reason. So Kim's like, whatever, man, keep the fucking change. Like, all I did was take the money. So we then cut to the beach where Kathleen is reading her book and not having a subplot this episode. And then Colin shows up and says, hey, you want to come over to dinner at my god baby's parents' house?
Yeah.
And she's like, what? And he's like, it's going to be a good time. Their house is like Frank Lloyd Webber, but Caribbean.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Frank Lloyd White.
I don't know who Frank Lloyd Webber is.
He's related to Andrew Lloyd Webber, obviously.
yeah.
And she's like, ooh, I don't think I can. I'm studying. And he's like, come on, come see the real Jantique with me. And she's like, I don't think so, Colin. I wouldn't feel comfortable. And he's like, what do you mean you wouldn't feel comfortable? They're terrific people. Like, are you being a fucking racist? And she's like, no, you're being really gross and like exploiting them for your like fucking poverty tourism or something, dude. And he's like, what? I'm the godfather. And she's like, no, you're not, dude. You're leaving in 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're just watching, Colin. You're just watching. And so he gets up and walks away sad. And the music is particularly atrocious.
I felt like this whole scene was atrocious. It's like, I didn't disagree with Kathleen, but I just didn't like her approach. It seemed really like nasty because they don't really have, I mean, we haven't seen them together in a while. I know we were kind of shipping them at some point, but
no, it's been 8 episodes. It's been 6 episodes since
they haven't been together at all. He invites her to dinner as like a
Cheryl
as like a date.
Yeah. It's really weird.
It's really weird. Okay. I don't like this show.
No. We then cut to the village where the chief is wearing an MC Hammer shirt.
Yes. I noticed that too.
The taxi driver's like, it's 1,000J. And Alex is like, it only says 500 on the meter. And the taxi driver's like, meter don't drive, man. And he's like, good point. And I was like, wow. See, Alex is not as bad as Charlie. We would have had a 4-hour argument with Charlie about this. Yeah. But I was calling his congressperson in the Better Business Bureau. He wants to see his medallion.
What a monster.
Now there's this really weird scene where the chief says, remember Harvey Milk?
Yes.
And Alex is like, dude, what did you just say? And he's like, oh, I don't know why I'm saying that. This is a weird line in this script. Like the writer who fought for that line, we don't know about that writer. But instead, let's talk about The Godfather Part 1 and 2 and how you're Tessio and how there are offers you can't refuse or some shit. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, we then cut to Colin and the family. So this is dinner that night. Alex is taking a 4-hour plus cab ride. It is now later. It is now nighttime out.
Mm-hmm.
Where Colin shows up late. He didn't call. He feels bad. They're going to heat up dinner for him.
Yes. I love the way she phrased it. I'm going to go put some heat in this chicken. Yeah. I loved that. I thought that was really cute. Not in a condescending way, just in the phraseology of it was really, I never thought about it that way.
You should start saying that a lot.
I'm not going to.
You should get an accent. You can find one for white people on this show. Wouldn't it be hilarious if that's what they actually did after this? All these actors went on to like become voice coaches in patois.
That would be hilarious.
Alex is the one who taught Chet Hanks to talk that way. Okay.
I have a Chet Hanks story to tell you after this.
Is it going to be on the pod or is it?
No.
No, that's too bad. He turned down our invitation.
Yeah, he turned down our invitation.
Okay, so we then cut. No, we don't cut, sadly. Instead, Colin's going to say, hey, man, why'd you pick me to be the Godfather? And he's like, well, because it's your responsibility to make sure that like he has a good life and makes a lot of money. And Colin's like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, man, you're going to fucking like get him into med school or some shit. And he's like, whoa, now, I'm only going to be on this island a couple of years. You wouldn't like Vermont. There aren't any black people there. If your son comes, he can stay. Maybe not with me. I might not be promising that. I have a cousin who dated a black guy. She married a white guy, but maybe she'll let him stay with her for a couple nights.
Yeah.
And the father's like, wow, you kind of suck, huh? And he's like, yep. And,
the end. And he's like, I'll tell her you already ate. And
then give us that address in Vermont. And
yeah.
He's like, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
Okay. We then cut to Delia's house where Cheryl shows up. It's the next day. We have no explanation of where Alex spent the night.
Nope.
Okay. Next day, Delia's house. Cheryl shows up. Little girl outside. She's like, hey, is Delia here? Little girl's like, who the fuck? Is Cherish here? Oh, it all comes around, everybody.
It all comes around. I know.
It's all connected. This is writing. I know you didn't take my money, Delia. And she's like, I told you yesterday. And then Cheryl's like, wait a second. I came here to apologize to you, but you're wearing my fucking dress, man.
Yeah.
And Delia's like, this dress wasn't meant for a chair. It was meant to be worn. If you're not using something right, someone else should. And I'm just kind of like,
and that, but it's couched in like a faux wise philosophy kind of way. Like, oh yeah, like she's learning some kind of lesson when I don't know. I didn't like this. It made me.
Delia just have asked to borrow the fucking, like, she's like, I'll wear your fucking stink dress. Like, we would have been saved all of this.
I just don't understand the weird philosophy thing that, no spoilers, but comes around again at the end. It was very weird and I didn't like it. And it
sums up this show.
It made it seem even more racist.
Yeah. Okay. It's the next day, mind you, so we then cut to Alex having a sit down with the guy who wants to kill him, whose name is something like Balaba.
Yeah.
The chief is now wearing a chill t-shirt. Alex has a proposal about something with the sickness, but then dude's like, I'm not mad at you anymore, dude. And Alex is like, what? And he's like, Kofi's sick. And it's like, what? And he's like, Kofi's crop's gonna fail. And Alex is like, fuck yeah! And then he goes out and he's like, ha ha. And they're like, hey, man, you should get inside. Kofi's out for you because you made him sick.
Yeah.
And Alex is like, what? And they're like, yeah, dude. Okay. Then the fucking episode is somehow over. Thank God. though they're playing Monopoly, which is obnoxious.
Really obnoxious.
If you've ever heard how people hate Monopoly and people say that nobody likes Monopoly, like I never really fully grasped it until this scene, because it's not people playing Monopoly because they're bored. It's people playing Monopoly because Parker Brothers gave them some money.
Yeah.
And so they are like super excited about Monopoly. It's fucking gross.
Yeah.
So then it's game night, they mentioned. So we've established there's a game night. Dahlia is serving everyone beers at the table because, you know, she waits on them as well.
Yeah.
Kim's looking good in his one close-up shot. Alex shows up and says if a tall black guy shows up, tell him I had a sex change and moved to a nunnery.
That was awesome.
Yep. And then they're like, why? What happened? And Alex is like, life. And then he goes to collapse. Charlie at this point is bitching about his brother getting rid of his stuff so he can fit more in his own garage or something.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, well, you know what? If you're not using that shit, somebody else, Cheryl says, if you're not using that shit, somebody else should use it. Nature abhors a vacuum. When there's a gap, it should be filled or something. And she looks over at
then directly quotes whatever it was Delia had told her the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And they give each other a little look, and Delia turns away and smiles.
Yep. Cheryl has learned her lesson from her own magic black lady. And then there's like some arguing about the Monopoly rules, and we end with them going, Jantique is a different country, so there are different rules.
Yeah.
Which is what Kim and Colin say to each other after blowjobs, but it's really weird in this context.
It is.
So that's the end of the episode.
That's it, folks.
It's basically about them being over-involved white saviors. Like the moral of the story is you can be a white savior, but don't go native.
Yeah, pretty close.
Unless you're black and then you're uppity until I bet Carl Lumley could learn a lot from Dahlia. I bet he could learn a lot from her.
About what?
Life.
Oh,
maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. Why did Cheryl have to learn from her?
Because I don't know.
And Cheryl never told Kathleen the resolution.
No, she didn't. She never did.
So Kathleen's surprised when Dahlia shows up to work.
Oh, yeah. Why is this thief in my house?
Yeah.
God, this is just asking for a hate crime. God. The end. I'm sorry, Andrew.
What's next, Emily?
What is next? Episode 10. Boy, oh boy. Oh, I did watch the afterward. So our 7-foot tall man comes back. It's called Perpetual Care. Colin learns a few lessons in life from a patient, wise old fisherman whose wife recently died. Alex's toothache has him in extreme pain, but Dr. Davis gets to the root of the problem, huh? And Solomon tells Charlie about a giant drummer. So
who's Solomon?
I have no idea.
Maybe he's the tall guy.
No, I think the giant drummer is the tall guy.
Cool. Sounds great.
Sounds fucking awesome.
We are on the downhill, though.
We are. And we'll have a Doctor Who break on what? November 25th is when the first episode comes out.
So far away.
I know. But really, if you think about it, it's only 4 more episodes. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's so far.
Are we going to come back? How many Doctor Who's are there? Aren't there like 3?
There are 3.
Are we coming back? Like, are we going to be able to come back for the last 3 episodes of Going to Extremes?
I have no idea.
Okay, so here's the thing. If they do right by the ladies on Doctor Who, I say we pay it forward and we don't put more of Going to Extremes into the world.
Okay.
The only reason we have to come back to this show is if Doctor Who does the ladies dirty, as Doctor Who has 175% done.
If Russell T Davies kills Donna, I cannot say on recording what I would do.
He's going to brainwash her again. What are you talking about? And they're going to have like a reference to Martha so they can like have a reference to that they married her off to the rapist they covered for. Maybe John
instead of Dr.
Barrymore can
Tom
come
or
back
whatever.
and stick his penis in somebody else's head. Like, it's okay though, because I'm gay. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, they better not kill Donna. That's all I have to say. Donna had better live. I had better see Wilf. I will cry 100% when I see Wilf. Whatever. Okay. So I guess we will see you next time when we will not be discussing Doctor Who, but we will be discussing episode 9 of Going to Extremes.
Episode 10
of Going to Extremes, called Perpetual Care. Andrew, I will see you in television land.
I'll see you in television land, Emily.